The Nile River was the lifeblood of ancient Egypt. It flows from south to north, cutting through the arid landscape. The Nile provided water for drinking, irrigation, and transportation. Without the Nile, there would be no Egypt. Its presence allowed a civilization to flourish in the desert. The Nile is the longest river in the world. It has two main branches, the White Nile and the Blue Nile. The White Nile originates in Lake Victoria. The Blue Nile starts in Lake Tana. The two branches meet in Khartoum, Sudan. From there, the Nile flows north through Egypt to the Mediterranean Sea. The annual flooding of the Nile was essential to Egyptian life. The floods deposited rich silt on the land. This silt created fertile soil for agriculture. The Egyptians called their land Kemet, meaning black land because of the dark, fertile soil. The ancient Egyptians recognized the Nile's importance. They developed sophisticated irrigation systems to manage the floodwaters. The Nile was not just a river, it was the source of life and the backbone of their civilization. The Nile's annual flood was a highly anticipated event. It usually occurred between June and September. As the floodwaters receded, they left behind a layer of rich, fertile silt. This fertile soil enabled the Egyptians to grow an abundance of crops. Farmers planted a variety of crops, including barley, wheat, and flax. They also cultivated fruits and vegetables like grapes, figs, onions, and lettuce. The surplus food production allowed for population growth and specialization of labor. This agricultural abundance led to Egypt's prosperity. People had enough food to eat and could trade surplus crops for other goods. This prosperity allowed for the development of a complex and sophisticated civilization. The Egyptians developed a system of writing, mathematics, and astronomy. They built magnificent temples and monuments like the pyramids to honor their pharaohs and gods. The Nile's bounty was the foundation upon which Egyptian civilization was built. The Nile River flowed like a liquid spine through the land of Egypt. It served as a vital artery for transportation and communication. People used boats to travel up and down the river, transporting goods and messages. This ease of movement facilitated trade and cultural exchange within Egypt. The Nile's north-south flow was crucial in unifying Egypt. It connected Upper Egypt in the south with Lower Egypt in the north. This connection allowed rulers to maintain control over this vast land and fostered a sense of unity among the Egyptian people. The Nile also connected Egypt to the wider world. The Egyptians traded with other civilizations, such as those in Nubia, Punt, and the Levant. They exchanged goods like gold, ivory, and ebony for cedar wood, olive oil, and silver. This trade brought wealth and new ideas into Egypt. The Nile, therefore, was not just an internal waterway, but a gateway to the outside world. It allowed Egypt to interact with other cultures, fostering intellectual and economic growth. The river's role in facilitating trade and communication was crucial to the development of Egyptian civilization. Section 4. Fortress of Deserts. Egypt's natural defenses. Egypt was a land of contrasts. The fertile Nile Valley was a stark contrast to the surrounding deserts. These deserts, while seemingly barren, played a crucial role in shaping Egyptian civilization. They acted as natural barriers, protecting Egypt from invasion. To the east lay the Eastern Desert and the Red Sea. To the west stretched the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert. These deserts were formidable obstacles to invaders, making it difficult to attack Egypt. The south had the cataracts or rapids of the Nile, which hindered navigation and served as another natural barrier. In contrast, Mesopotamia, another ancient civilization, was located on a flat plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This lack of natural barriers made Mesopotamia vulnerable to invasions. Mesopotamian history is marked by a succession of different empires rising and falling, often through conquest. Egypt's geographical isolation fostered a sense of security and stability. It allowed the Egyptians to develop their unique culture and beliefs without constant threat. They could focus on internal development, leading to the flourishing of art, architecture, and science. Their civilization enjoyed a remarkable degree of continuity for over 3,000 years.
Section 5. The Divine Nile and Cosmic Order. Religion was deeply intertwined with every aspect of life in ancient Egypt. The Egyptians were polytheistic, worshipping a pantheon of gods and goddesses. They believed these gods controlled the forces of nature and human destiny. The Nile River, central to their existence, was also deified. The Nile was personified as the god Hapi, who brought the annual flood that fertilized the land. Hapi was depicted as a benevolent figure with a large belly and pendulous breasts, symbolizing fertility and abundance. The Egyptians offered prayers and sacrifices to Hapi, seeking his blessings for a bountiful harvest. The cyclical nature of the Nile's flood reinforced the Egyptian belief in order and eternity. The reliable flooding, followed by the emergence of new life, symbolized rebirth and regeneration. This concept of cyclical time was central to their religious beliefs, particularly in the afterlife. The Egyptians believed in life after death. They developed elaborate burial rituals, including mummification, to preserve the body for the afterlife. The deceased were buried with provisions and possessions to accompany them on their journey. The tombs themselves, especially the pyramids of the Old Kingdom, were designed to be eternal resting places.
Section 6, Dynasties and Kingdoms, a historical overview. Egyptian history is often divided into three major periods: the Old Kingdom, the Middle Kingdom, and the New Kingdom. These kingdoms were interspersed with periods of instability known as intermediate periods. Each period had its own unique characteristics, marked by political changes, artistic innovations, and religious developments. The Old Kingdom, around 2686 to 2181 BCE, is often considered the age of the pyramids. It was a time of great prosperity and centralized rule. Powerful pharaohs, considered divine kings, commissioned the construction of massive pyramids as their tombs. The Middle Kingdom, around 2066 to 1650 BCE, was a time of reunification and expansion after a period of disunity. The pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom restored order and extended Egyptian influence into Nubia. This period is known for its literature and art, reflecting a renewed focus on Egyptian values. The New Kingdom, around 1550 to 1069 BCE, witnessed Egypt emerge as a mighty empire. Powerful pharaohs like Thutmose III and Ramesses II expanded Egyptian territory through conquest, reaching its greatest geographical extent. This era saw the construction of grand temples like those at Karnak and Luxor, and the production of exquisite works of art. Section 7, From Pharaoh to Peasant, the Structure of Society. Ancient Egyptian society was highly structured, with a clear hierarchy based on social status. At the apex of this hierarchy was the pharaoh, the absolute ruler considered a living god. The pharaoh was responsible for maintaining order, justice, and prosperity. Below the pharaoh were the nobles and priests who held significant power and influence. Scribes, skilled in writing, played a crucial role in administration and record-keeping.
Artisans, craftsmen, and merchants formed the middle class, while farmers and laborers made up the majority of the population. The pharaoh ruled through a complex bureaucracy, with officials responsible for different aspects of governance. The vizier, the pharaoh's chief advisor, oversaw the administration. Taxes were collected in the form of goods and labor, used to fund public works and maintain the temples and the army. Despite the rigid social structure, there was some degree of social mobility. Individuals could rise through the ranks based on merit, particularly in the military or through religious service. However, the vast majority of Egyptians remained in the social class of their birth.